Hello, my name is Lavar and I work in audio. So I've kind of worked in several different areas of audio. Uh, I've been a sound engineer, a mix engineer, a producer, a sound designer, and a composer. Um, and what I'm going to share with you today is a number of approaches and areas that I look for in audio that I'm working on and music that I'm producing, sound design that I'm doing. In fact, any project that I work on, these are the things that I think about. Um, when I studied music quite a long time ago now, um, these were kind of these were fundamentals that were taught to me when thinking about writing songs and composing music. Um, and I guess because that's my background, these are things that I've taken into every piece of audio that I've worked on since, which has, been thousands at this point. So the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is pitch and frequency. Now, music and audio is all within a range of human hearing. So that goes from the very lowest sounds that you hear, so bass and sub bass and that kind of stuff, all the way up to really, really high sounds like flutes and alarms and all kinds of things that go beyond those frequency ranges that only dogs can hear. And when you're designing sound or thinking about composition for a narrative or a game or some kind of television or film, this is one of the tools that you've got at your disposal, is where you put some of that sound. So, for example, you've probably noticed that in every film trailer, to create impact and make something sound exciting, they use sub bass. So when you go to a cinema or when you listen on headphones, you'll hear loads of sub bass in movie trailers to generate excitement. The same thing happens in video games. And another thing that happens is very high sounds, things like alarms, things that are supposed to make you jump. They're all very high frequency sounds. So it's worth thinking about what you're using pitch-wise and in terms of frequency and how that aids your storytelling. I think all of these points are really with the thought process of how these aid storytelling. I think when I first started playing video games, things like Pac-Man, there's a Pac-Man ghost up here somewhere. In that era of gaming, because of the limitations of the systems, the tunes were often very repetitive and they were very limited in the sounds that they could use. Now, anything that you can think of is available to you, and things are far more sophisticated. So all of these points here can be much easier to implement and use in your compositions. The next thing worth thinking about is tempo. So this is how fast the music is, or how fast the sound design is moving, the sounds in it. This again aids the storytelling massively. Things that are supposed to be exciting and fast-paced, the music moves faster. Things that are supposed to be peaceful and relaxing, generally the music moves slower. So that's something to think about in any sound design or composition. The next thing to think about is dynamics. So this is basically how loud or how soft a sound is. So again, this is used a lot in video games and television and film, more so in film actually than television. And this is basically using really, really loud sounds when you want, excitement, when you want things to sound hyped, and using really, really quiet sounds and really quiet music and sound design when you want people to kind of pay more attention, or pay attention to voiceover, or for you want something to be spooky or something like that. You would generally use quite a soundtrack. Yeah, definitely something worth thinking about. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is use of space. So, again, in the very, very beginnings of video games, generally the soundtracks were loops, or a short tune or piece of music that was repeated multiple times. That doesn't really happen in any other sort of media. It doesn't happen in film, and it doesn't happen in television. And as video games become more and more cinematic, the same language applies. So use of space is kind of a more extreme version of the one above, dynamics. Leaving space in your soundtrack or your sound design can make more impact happen when you reintroduce the music. I think a good example of this actually was Breath of the Wild, the Zelda game. There's quite a lot of piano music in that game, but there's also huge areas of no music, just sound effects, and it makes it really, really effective when the music is reintroduced. So yeah, that's something to think about in your compositions or in your sound design. And generally, if you think about these 4 points here, and how whatever you've composed or designed aids the story that you're trying to tell, in relation to the points that are over here, yeah, I think you'll be in a good place. Thanks.